Dr. Swank's MS research started over 60 years ago in Montreal. We're thrilled that two of his patients from that first original study group were able to join us today. Pierre Rousseau has joined us from Oakville, Ontario. And Pierre, are you here? Could you please stand? We'd just like to thank you so much for coming and for representing a study that started 60 years ago and led into an incredible career. Thank you very much.
1951.
1951, and look at you. Yeah. Oh, we're welcome, and we look forward to talking to you later. Thank you. And also, Jack Dyer, who's also from that original group, and he's joining us from Sunnyvale, California. And it's just, these men are both living testaments that if you follow the Swank diet, you too will live long and well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did not have the privilege of knowing Dr. Swank so much as a person as the people in front of me, and I'm sure glad I came and heard what they had to say today. I had the good fortune of being sent to Dr. Swank 55 years ago, 1953, after 3 attacks in 7 months. And I met him at the McGill University's Montreal Neurological Institute. For 3 days there, I was interviewed, tested, probed, and exhibited to student neurologists. I was also instructed by Dr. Swank's then dietitian, Miss Grimsgard. Miss Grimsgard was the personification of tough love. And at that stage, she was just tough. Finally, after the 3 days, the quiet, didn't sound quiet the last few minutes, but the quiet Dr. Swank appeared in the ward and humbly tried to insist that we inmates finish our cribbage game. In his office, he introduced me to multiple sclerosis, which really was pretty unheard of in those days. My family had never heard of it, nor my friends, nor for that matter, the half dozen guys in the ward with me. He cited the awful statistics. As I remember, he said the average life is 25 years and 5 years of working. He did say he saw some hopeful aspects of my case and that he expected patients dieting would do a lot better than the averages he had quoted. I was 24 years old and I put to him the topmost question on my mind. Will I ever ski again? And his answer, ambiguous, but it just said it all. Quote, I have patients who ski, and we didn't discuss that anymore. A month later, at his request, I was back in Montreal, and this time he advised that I quit my 2-year career in Schenectady, New York, go home to California, rest there for 6 months, and write him monthly. And then to start again in the mild climate of California, and to try to get with a large employer who could stand my taking a morning or day off when I might need it. He did not tell me that I was being entered in his formal study of 144 patients. Through correspondence, he extended my idleness to 9 months. And then after that, it took me 2 more months to find a large employer with a doctor sufficiently incompetent to allow me to work there. Large employers run by Barack Obama now. On what had been my 4th week of work, Dr. Swank told me on the phone, stay in bed, it's just mild, it'll go quickly. 3 months later, I came up to see him in Portland. Now I was approaching 26 years of age, and I had a more mature question for him. Quote, dare I marry the girl I left back in Schenectady? Can't believe I said that. And again, he was ambiguous. He said, well, I sure wouldn't tell you not to. And then he went over all the risks we thought we knew we would face. And he noted that I appeared to be starting on a good track with MS. In 1962, 7 good years later, Dr. Swank was simply not available when I called his office. He was in Germany. I was panic-stricken. All the symptoms I'd ever had were piled on me, plus a devastating weakness I had never experienced, not to mention 3 small children. I insisted that any colleague talk to me from his office. Some poor fellow was finally dragged to the phone, and the best he could do was suggest I take some aspirin. Amazingly, in 3 weeks, I could get back to work half-time, and in 6 weeks, full-time, and I don't remember taking any aspirin. When he returned from Germany, Dr. Swank offered appointments in a hotel suite at the San Francisco airport for the convenience of Californians and Southwesterners. Mine was first, and of course I was waiting in the lobby for his delayed flight when he got back. I suddenly saw that he had a totally new perspective. His confidence in the diet had soared in the 9 years since I had met him. He liked the details of what I said about what had happened to me, and he was brimming with encouragement. I asked him, would I do any better tightening up on the diet? And he said, with no ambiguity this time, I am seeing that my patients are doing better eating less saturated fat than we had specified. And then he said, and probably it'd be all right if you ate more oil. He wasn't quite as confident about that statement, but that's what he said. In the years following, he often shared with me his ongoing analyses, which were very convincing about eating less saturated fat. He also showed me my extreme good fortune in having started the diet right away at the onset of disease, a fortune that not everybody can enjoy, of course. So I completed a 40-year career. There was far too much challenge and excitement in NASA ever to be sick or even take the vacation available to me or anything else. I did enjoy some skiing, as it turned out, as well as tennis and hiking and even golf. I did have a couple of small neurological setbacks in circumstances Dr. Swank had warned against, but what can you do? In 1995 was my next to last visit with Dr. Swank, and he was, he said, retired, yeah. But he was very relaxed, as one of the previous speakers mentioned, and I was really pleased to learn his history and about the late 1940s endowment to the McGill University to, quote, do something about multiple sclerosis, and how Dr. Swank came to be invited to come to McGill from Harvard to do the endowed research. He was really proud to tell me that the son of the donor of the endowment was then in his 80s and alive and well in 1995. 2001, 8 years ago, was my last meeting with Dr. Swank, this time with Leanna, and it can only be described as an unforgettably pleasant afternoon. So I'm not surprised about a lot of what I've heard today. Later, he asked me to get an MRI to help prove that his diagnoses back in the 1950s, long before there was MRI, were correct. Mine was the 7th proof of 7 such trials. Thank you, Dr. Swank.